YXBA is back and I'm ready to mash some more buttons.
Tiger uppercut!
Shoryuken!
I just wanted to point out, first of all, that I created a website for this YouTube channel, and it's still a bit of a work in progress, but you can check it out at YXBANintendo.com. Well, there never seems to be a dull moment on Emily Rogers' Twitter account. Recently, she shared a bunch of information that she had about Zelda NX, and she's back with another very interesting tweet. She has stated that Nintendo is planning on porting a lot of the Wii U games to the NX. And there's definitely some good news and maybe bad news with that. It sounds to me like the fact that they're going to be porting a bunch of Wii U games over to the NX means that there will not be any natural backwards compatibility from the Wii U to the NX, which is, going to disappoint some people. But personally, I'd rather have a port with better graphics and new features, as well as something that is tailored to whatever changes they're making to the new controller and tailored to some of the new online features that the system is expected to have. If they're not able to just directly provide backwards compatibility through the hardware, I would not expect to see 2 years, 3 years down the road, Nintendo pull a Microsoft and do some sort of a software emulation styled backwards compatibility. The reason for that is I think that it's just not going to be worth their time, because the Wii U had a very, very strong lineup of exclusives, but really not that many games overall. So I think they're better off just taking the 5 or 10 best games and just porting them over, rather than, wasting a lot of time and energy on providing some sort of software emulation. So I want to get a little bit of a conversation going on which Wii U games you'd like to see ported to the NX. And we do already have some insight into perhaps a couple of games that will be ported over to the NX. Obviously, it's been reported ad nauseum at this point that Zelda U is going to be ported over to the NX. But over at Player Essence's channel, he is claiming to have some sources that are suggesting that Splatoon will be another one of the games ported over to NX, and to me that makes a lot of sense. It's a game that keeps giving. It's not the type of game that fans play for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, wrap it, and then move on to the next one. It's a game that keeps evolving. So obviously that makes a lot of sense, because there's going to be a lot of value to carrying over that community to the NX, and then they can hopefully have that game ready to go early on in the NX life cycle, and also continue to work on a sequel to carry over those players in the future. So when I think about what other games should be ported over to the NX, I'm considering a lot of factors, and I'll share with you some of my thoughts. I think that one of the factors is obviously going to be the ease of porting over to the hardware, because I don't think that they're going to be spending a ton of time on porting these games. So, a lot of it depends on the controller that they end up going with for the next system, and if it's compatible with the Wii U playstyle. For example, a game like Star Fox, I think would make a lot of sense to port over. I think that game looks pretty good, but it could look a lot better. The processing power of the Wii U was really holding the game back after they made the decision to render the game twice, once on the gamepad and once on the television set. So it would be really cool to see what that game could look like on the NX. But if the controller itself doesn't have a screen on it and doesn't have gyros, which I think is actually quite unlikely, I think there's going to be a screen on it, obviously that would be a game that wouldn't make sense. Another factor, I think, is you want to use some of these ports to make sure that you have something for every different gaming demographic as possible at launch. I think one of the irritations that I have experienced in other console launches is, maybe they didn't have a game in my favorite style of game. Like, I like big, epic RPG type adventure games, and I remember at the PS4 launch, there really wasn't much to satisfy me. So given that, I think it would be really cool if they did a Xenoblade port for the launch of the NX. And now this is just a 3DS game right now, but possibly a Monster Hunter 4 port for the NX launch would make a lot of sense as well. Another game that I think would make a lot of sense would be Bayonetta 2. That's a game that appeals to a very specific demographic. It's a very mature, M-rated game, and also, is for gamers that are really, really skilled at games and like a real good challenge. To me, I put it in the same niche as Dark Souls. I know it's a little bit different, but it's not a super, super popular game, but it appeals to a specific demographic, and those people will buy a console just to play that type of game. And so I think Bayonetta 2 would be a fantastic idea to port that over to the NX around the launch window. Probably the most obvious game that we haven't talked about yet would be Smash Brothers. That's another one of these games like Splatoon. It keeps evolving and manages to stay relevant for a long period of time. So you could just easily port that game over to the NX, and hopefully there's better online features, maybe a little bit more stable online gameplay. And that's a game that they've just done so much work on getting all of these playable DLC characters. Wouldn't it be amazing if that was an NX launch title and they included all of the DLC characters, all of the DLC stages, and then continue to add new characters from there? Other than that, I think that it'd be cool to have some sort of a party game available at launch. So maybe a port of Mario Party 10 would make a lot of sense. Of course, Mario 3D World is quite possibly the best game on the Wii U, and I think it would be really awesome if we got a port of that game. This is going to get out of control. When you think about all of the potential games that could get ported to the NX at launch, and the other games that are NX exclusive games that are going to be available, it's going to be a very, very expensive Christmas for me if the system does indeed come out this year. So another game that I think would make sense to put onto the NX would be Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. That game didn't sell as well as I think it deserved to. It's really a fantastic game. Graphically, it's very impressive, and it didn't get the sales it deserved, so I'd love to see that game live on the NX and maybe see more people get into that game that missed out on it by either not having a Wii U or not picking it up for their Wii U's. The other one that I really wanted to highlight that I think would be a very good idea would be Mario Kart 8. It, again, is similar to Splatoon, similar to Smash Brothers, in that it's a game that stays relevant for a very long period of time, and it would be just awesome to have an updated version of that game for the NX. And again, I think they should include all of the DLC, add some online features, and also add some anti-aliasing, because the game is gorgeous, but they did it largely at the sacrifice of some anti-aliasing, which I think if the game had it, it would just look that much sharper, and some of the little jaggies here and there would be gone. So give me your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Is there some key games missing here that you would port? I'm assuming they don't have an unlimited workforce of people able to port these games, so they're probably going to have to limit it maybe to 5 or so games that they port over to the NX, at least in the launch window. So obviously I'd love to see every single game from the Wii U ported over, but I don't think that's necessarily going to be in the cards. So let me know, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you and hopefully getting more of a conversation going on this subject. This has been Colin Unger reminding you to keep your thumbs glued to YXBA. And always remember to select Start. If you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe.